What's up, guys? The story begins in the Nile Valley in 3600 BC. The people of Egypt are worshipping and honoring a powerful being who is being carried to his pyramid by his four horsemen: pestilence, famine, death, and war. Everything has been prepared to perform a ritual that will transfer En-Saba-Nur's consciousness into the body of a mutant with an incredible regenerative ability, considered immortal, because even with all his powers, En-Saba-Nur himself is not immortal. Outside, while the ritual is already taking place, some guards of the kingdom betray En-Saba-Nur and cause enormous stone pillars to collapse inside the pyramid in order to kill him and everyone inside. The horsemen fight against the traitors while the massive rocks begin destroying the pyramid's structures and crushing anyone inside. In her final moments, the horseman Death manages to protect her master's body, but not herself, and she is eventually crushed along with all the others. The consciousness transfer process is completed, but En-Saba-Nur remains trapped beneath the rubble. Time moves forward to 1983, where a group of high school students discusses how Eric Lensher, better known as Magneto, attacked the Peace Summit and the president, but was stopped by Raven Darkholme, who was using the codename Mystique. Scott Summers, one of the students in that class, is having problems with his eyes, and another student mistakes it for him staring at his girlfriend. Scott then asks the teacher for permission to go to the bathroom, and the other student follows him to attack him. Scott locks himself inside one of the bathroom stalls to avoid the bully, but loses control and unleashes the devastating red beam from his eyes, throwing the bully against the walls and causing significant damage to the school property. Meanwhile, in Berlin, several people gather in a secret arena to watch mutants fight. One of the fighters, known as Angel, a mutant with wings on his back, defeats his opponent and is soon introduced to another fighter who is brought into the ring inside a cage. His name is Wagner, better known as Nightcrawler, who can teleport anywhere he has already seen. At first, he avoids Angel, who tells him that both of them will be killed if they do not fight. Nightcrawler then catches Angel by surprise and throws him against the electrified ring fence, burning his wings. That is when Raven arrives at the place. She goes to the arena controls and lowers the voltage, allowing both fighters to escape. While Angel flies away, Nightcrawler is rescued by Raven herself, and the two escape successfully. Eric Lensher, who is currently seen as a monster by humans, is now living a normal life with his wife Magda and his daughter Nina. He works at a metal foundry company in Poland under the name Henryk Górski. Later that night at home, he sings a lullaby to his daughter, saying that he learned it from his own parents. He also tells Nina about how his parents were taken away from him when he was very young and assures her that the same thing will never happen to her. Scott's brother Alex takes him to Xavier's school for gifted youngsters with a cloth covering his eyes to prevent accidents. Scott bumps into a girl named Jean, a mutant, and they exchange a few words before Alex introduces him to Hank McCoy, better known as Beast, who is now a teacher. Together, the three then go to see Charles Xavier, who greets Alex and his brother Scott. Outside the school, Charles asks Scott to remove the blindfold from his eyes and fire at a target, assuring him that it is safe to do so. Scott does what he asks and unleashes a massive red beam of light that cuts a tree in half, which Xavier says had been planted by his grandfather. Scott fears he will be expelled, but instead he impresses Charles and is accepted into the school. Back in Cairo, Egypt, a CIA agent named Moira McTaggart follows a group of people with similar marks on their necks into an underground chamber, where she finds them performing a ritual to awaken En-Saba-Nur from his eternal sleep. Moira manages to escape just before an explosion is triggered, causing an earthquake that can be felt all over the world, even at Eric's workplace. A huge container filled with molten metal falls toward one of Eric's co-workers, but Eric saves him at the last second using his powers and quickly disguises what he did, so no one discovers that he is a mutant. However, he believes someone may have seen him. At the school, Jean foresees chaos and the end of the world. She tells Charles about it, saying she fears her powers, but Charles comforts her. Later, with Hank's help, Charles uses Cerebro to discover where the tremors originated. He sees Moira, who used to be his love interest, and decides to visit her to see if she knows anything about the earthquake. Meanwhile, Eric and Magda prepare to leave their town and go somewhere no one knows Eric's true identity. When Magda goes looking for Nina, she notices that she is missing. The couple searches through the forest until they find her surrounded by the police, who ask Eric about his real identity. To protect his daughter, Eric confesses that he is Magneto and surrenders himself, asking the police to take him in exchange for Nina's freedom. Nina screams for them to leave her father alone, and her voice causes birds to attack the officers, revealing that she is also a mutant like her father. However, something incredibly tragic happens. One of the officers accidentally releases an arrow from his bow, instantly killing both Nina and Magda in an extremely heartbreaking scene. Eric cries desperately, saying that they took his babies away from him. Furious over the death of his family, he removes Nina's necklace and uses it to kill the men, since there was no other metal nearby that he could use besides the necklace itself. Back in Egypt, and Saba Noor, now better known as Apocalypse, is finally free to walk and explore this new world. He encounters a mutant named Aurora, who steals from street vendors and quickly escapes with the money, but she is soon cornered. Apocalypse intervenes and saves her, trapping the men chasing her inside the walls. Meanwhile, Charles and Alex visit Moira and question her about the incident in Egypt, but she hesitates to answer because the information is classified. When she asks how they got in, Charles mentally convinces her that they have level 5 authorization. Believing him, Moira then shares all the information they gathered in their investigation, including everything they know about the mutant. At his hideout, Aurora offers Apocalypse some food. The mutant uses a television to learn the current human language and everything about the modern world. He calls humans weak and false gods, believing that Earth needs to be purified. Aurora tells him that laws keep them trapped, but he convinces her to follow him and greatly enhances her mutant powers. Meanwhile, Raven takes Nightcrawler to a mutant named Caliban, who helps other mutants create fake identities and passports. Caliban tells Raven everything that happened with Eric, and she leaves furious alongside Nightcrawler. Back at the school, Hank creates special glasses for Scott, limiting his powers and allowing him to see the world properly. Scott's eyes then focus on Jean, and he approaches her to talk for a while. Some students walk past them acting afraid of him. Thinking he is the cause of that fear, Scott tells them they do not need to be afraid anymore because he is now wearing glasses. Jean then tells him that he is not the only one who cannot fully control his powers and that he is not the biggest monster there. Accompanied by Aurora, now called Storm, Apocalypse approaches Caliban searching for powerful mutants, but Caliban refuses to help him. At that moment, Psylocke arrives to examine the situation, and Apocalypse unlocks all of her powers. She then joins him and guides him to the mutant Angel, whose wings are burned and damaged. Angel says he believes he can no longer help anyone, but Apocalypse refuses to leave and enhances Angel's abilities, giving him a pair of much more lethal metallic wings. Angel then begins following him as well. Raven and Nightcrawler arrive at Xavier's school and are welcomed by Hank. At first he is surprised, but he receives them warmly. Nightcrawler is accompanied by a student to meet Scott, and all of them decide to go to the mall together since Nightcrawler has no idea what a mall even is. Professor Xavier later asks Raven to convince Charles to form the X-Men because he believes the world will soon need them, but Raven tells him she came there to ask for help finding Eric. At that same moment, Eric returns to his workplace and seals all the exits so no one inside the factory can escape. He says he believes someone there informed the police about what they witnessed the previous day when he saved his co-worker's life. He tells them that since they want to know who he really is, he will show them exactly what he can do. Eric tells them to think about the person they love most in the world, and says that now their families will know what it feels like to lose someone they love. Just as he is about to kill everyone, Apocalypse teleports there with his followers to recruit him. Eric asks Apocalypse not to interfere or try to save anyone, but to his surprise, Apocalypse instantly buries everyone in the factory alive. He then takes Eric to the place where he lived as a child and where his parents were murdered by human cruelty, the same place where he first discovered and used his powers. Apocalypse shows Eric that his abilities can become far greater and teaches him that he can manipulate the metal hidden within the earth itself, using his rage to fuel his power. Eric then begins destroying everything around him, while Apocalypse promises to build a better world from the ashes of the current one. The incident in Poland is shown on television, and Peter, better known as Quicksilver, watches the news. When his mother enters the room to check on him, he changes the channel and pretends to be playing video games. His mother knows he was watching the report about Eric and warns him not to go after him, but says she cannot stop him if he truly wants to. Quicksilver then looks at a card from Xavier's school. Charles and Alex, alongside Moira, return to the school, and Charles is surprised to see Raven there. When he greets Moira, she is confused because she does not remember him. After she leaves for a moment with the others, Charles reveals to Raven that he erased Moira's memories. Raven then tells him about Eric's situation, and they use Cerebro to locate him. When Charles finds Eric, he instantly feels the pain of losing his wife and daughter. Charles tries to convince him to come back so they can help him, but Eric says he tried to live the life Charles wanted for him, yet the world would not let him live in peace and took away everything good he had. Eric then promises to do the same thing to the rest of the world. At that moment, Charles senses another presence near Eric. Apocalypse notices Charles's powers and takes control of him. Through Cerebro, Apocalypse witnesses the entire history of humanity's cruelty, wars, greed, and destruction throughout the centuries. Now connected to Cerebro, Apocalypse reaches the minds of those who control the nuclear weapons around the world and forces them to launch all the missiles into space, neutralizing them completely. Hank eventually manages to free Charles from the connection. Believing the missiles are going to destroy Earth, Charles tells Alex to destroy Cerebro and stop Apocalypse. Alex obeys and destroys the machine, leaving Charles unconscious. However, just as they attempt to escape, Apocalypse teleports into the mansion and kidnaps Charles. Alex desperately tries to help his friend, but accidentally hits Hank's machines, causing a massive explosion throughout the mansion. At that moment, Quicksilver arrives at Xavier's school and notices the explosion from far away. Because of his incredible super speed, he immediately rushes toward the mansion and starts saving the students before they are consumed by the flames. His speed is so extreme that he is still able to joke around while rescuing people from certain death. In the end, he manages to get everyone out safely, even rescuing a dog carrying a slice of pizza, without anyone getting hurt. Scott, Nightcrawler, Jean, and another student return to the school only to find it completely destroyed. When Scott looks for his brother, Hank tells him that Alex was closest to the explosion and could not be saved. Scott mourns the loss, while Jean and Nightcrawler comfort him. At that moment, a helicopter lands on the school grounds, claiming to provide medical assistance. Moira approaches them, believing they are from another agency, until the leader removes his mask, revealing William Stryker. His men fire sonic weapons that incapacitate everyone except Scott and Nightcrawler, who were farther away. Jean manages to keep them hidden by mentally manipulating one of Stryker's soldiers, while Stryker captures Hank, Raven, Peter, and Moira. Scott then asks Nightcrawler to teleport all of them secretly into the helicopter. Once inside, an electrical field suppresses their powers and keeps them trapped. Stryker takes the mutants to his secret facility and imprisons Raven. Meanwhile, Apocalypse takes his followers and Charles to his ancient sanctuary. There, he orders Charles to send a message to everyone on Earth, but Charles refuses and says he cannot function as Cerebro without the machine. Apocalypse tells him he does not need any machine when he already has Charles by his side. Inside the prison cell, Peter asks Raven whether Eric is truly a villain, and confesses that Magneto is actually his father. Suddenly, everyone around the world hears Charles's message being transmitted with Apocalypse's help. Secretly, however, Charles includes a hidden message that only Jean can understand. Scott and Nightcrawler make their way toward the generator room, but they hear something growling inside. Scott comments that it sounds like an animal, but Jean rejects the idea, saying it is a man. As guards approach the generator room, Jean unlocks the chamber, revealing Wolverine imprisoned inside. Wolverine brutally slaughters every soldier he encounters until he reaches the exit, while the three teenagers follow his trail. Jean later enters Wolverine's mind and restores the memories she can reach without saying a word. Wolverine then quietly leaves the facility. The three finally reach the prison cells, and Scott blasts the doors open to free Moira and the captured mutants. They then head toward Charles's location. Meanwhile, Apocalypse rebuilds his pyramid while destroying everything around him. He orders Magneto to spread destruction across the globe. When Charles asks Apocalypse what his role is in all of this, Apocalypse tells him that he has the most important role of all, implying that he plans to transfer his consciousness into Charles's body in order to gain complete control over every mind on Earth. When Raven and the others arrive, they decide that Raven will try to reach Eric emotionally, while the rest focus on rescuing Charles from the pyramid. At the same time, Apocalypse orders his horsemen to prepare for war and stop anyone from entering until the transfer is complete. The three young mutants catch Angel by surprise while Nightcrawler infiltrates the pyramid. The others attempt to enter as well, but are confronted by Storm. After a fierce battle against Angel, Nightcrawler manages to enter deeper into the pyramid in search of Charles, while the others struggle against Apocalypse's horsemen. Raven tells Eric that he still has a family and that his life is not over yet. Peter tries to confess that he is his son, but he cannot bring himself to say it. Nightcrawler rescues Charles moments before the consciousness transfer is completed and teleports everyone back to the jet one by one. They attempt to escape, but Angel and Psylocke destroy the aircraft, forcing Nightcrawler to teleport the entire team to safety. Apocalypse regains consciousness and furiously calls out for Charles. Peter then attacks Apocalypse and initially lands several powerful punches using his incredible speed. However, Apocalypse eventually manages to trap him and slam him into the ground. Raven tries to rescue Peter but fails and ends up trapped in Apocalypse's grasp. Apocalypse screams at Charles, challenging him to help his friends. Charles remembers that he is mentally connected to Apocalypse and enters his mind, but the plan fails. Apocalypse uses the connection to discover Charles's exact location. As Apocalypse advances toward him, Magneto suddenly betrays Apocalypse and blocks his path to Charles. The others join the fight, but they are overwhelmed by Apocalypse's immense power. Jean finally unleashes the full strength hidden inside her. She completely overpowers Apocalypse, and as the combined efforts of everyone weaken him further, Apocalypse attempts to escape, but is stopped by Storm. In the end, Apocalypse is completely disintegrated while saying that everything has been revealed. Jean then helps Charles regain consciousness. Charles restores Moira's memories so she can remember their past together. After everything is over, they all return home. Eric helps rebuild the school, and Storm approaches Peter, asking when he plans to reveal that he is Magneto's son. Peter replies that one day he will tell him, but for now he will remain there with the others. Charles tries to convince Eric to stay, but Eric says goodbye and wishes them luck in their future missions. Finally, Raven is seen preparing the new members of the X-Men, while Hank releases training robots for them to fight against. That was full movie recaps. See you in the next video.